So this is about the nature of or the qualities of awareness. And so this may be, because I haven't hung out in awareness long enough, but it seems to me, or maybe I'm experiencing awareness as being because it's described as something like a screen. So it seems like it's sort of blank, impersonal, indifferent, almost a little bit like, just like a camera that sees. So the qualities of joy or happiness, I can't find those in awareness.
Okay. If you think of the experience of peace, peace is the word we use to describe the experience of the agitation of our thoughts and feelings coming to an end. We no longer feel agitated. We no longer feel disturbed. We no longer feel upset. So it is the subsidence of agitation, disturbance, upset. That's the experience that we call peace. Well, the subsidence of the movement in a movie leaves the screen visible. So what you're actually experiencing, when you know the experience of peace. Yes, you know what's meant by peace.
Kind of.
Well, I would suggest that when you're experiencing peace, you are experiencing the background of awareness filtering through into your experience. Mm-hmm. When you experience happiness, your feeling of lack comes to an end. Most people, most of the time, feel a sense of lack more or less strongly. It may be a big feeling of lack which impels us towards some object or substance, or it might just be a little feeling of irritation or boredom. But when that feeling of lack comes to an end, when there is no desire to move away from our current experience, the name we give to that experience is happiness. Happiness is a positive way of stating the absence of lack. In fact, the Buddhists are cautious not to objectify or reify the qualities of awareness. They tend not to talk about happiness. They talk about the cessation of suffering. Mm-hmm. I like to be a bit more positive and speak about happiness, but I respect their caution not to objectify awareness. So they just speak about the absence of suffering. Well, what's the common name for the absence of suffering? Happiness. So I would, you know the experience of happiness. I would suggest that every time you feel happiness, you are experiencing your true nature filtering through into your experience.
I think maybe I associate happiness with an ego sense of like, I've got something, I've achieved something, I am somebody. It's like an ego feeling. So maybe there's different sorts of happiness.
So the ego can claim the experience of happiness, but actually the ego is not present in the experience of happiness. That's why we like it.
Interesting.
You see, it's the ego that feels something is missing. Because the ego, the separate self, feels I am temporary, I am finite, I am a fragment. I need to be completed. King Lear feels miserable, I need something or someone. So it's the ego that goes out in search of happiness. The acquisition of an object, a substance, an activity, or a relationship. Now, when we get the object or the substance or a relationship, we experience happiness. The ego wrongly interprets the cause of that happiness to be the object, substance, or relationship acquired. No, that's a misinterpretation. What happened is that the acquisition of the object, substance, or relationship brought our seeking to an end. In other words, it brought the mind to an end, because when we are seeking, it is the mind that is seeking. So when we acquire the object of our desire, seeking comes to an end, which means the mind comes to an end. What happens when the mind comes to an end? The background of our true nature shines. What happens when the movie comes to an end? The screen becomes visible. Right? The ego wrongly interprets the source of happiness as the object, substance, or relationship. No, the object, substance, or relationship were necessary to bring the activity of seeking or resisting to an end. And the ending of the mind in that moment allows the background of awareness to shine through. That's the experience of happiness. And actually, when we then look again at the object we were seeking, or the substance or the relationship, it was never the object, the substance, or the relationship itself that we were seeking. We only sought that object or relationship because we considered it a source of happiness. For instance, let's say that somebody desires. We ask somebody, "What is it you desire above all else?" And they say, "An intimate relationship." And they say, "Okay, I can provide an intimate relationship for you, but I guarantee it will make you miserable." Would that person continue to desire the relationship? Of course not. Because they didn't really want the relationship for its own sake. They only wanted it for the happiness that they believed would be derived from it. So we think it's an object, a substance, an activity, a relationship we want. No, what we want is happiness, which means what we want is the ending of seeking. Now, most people seek happiness through the acquisition of objects, substances, activities, and relationships. Here, we seek happiness where it lives, which is in our own being. We go directly to our own being, which is the source of happiness. It doesn't mean to say that we cease having desires for objects, substances, relationships, and so on, but we no longer cease seeking these for the happiness that they will bring us. We seek them. We might still, for instance, seek an intimate relationship, but not to find happiness, to share it, to celebrate it. We no longer use the world in service of our happiness. We use our happiness in service of the world. One last thing. I've responded about peace and happiness. Let me respond about love. So love is, you've obviously experienced love. Love is not really a relationship that takes place between two people or between two selves. Love is the collapse of the distinction between two people or two selves. When you feel you love someone, do you not feel, to a greater or lesser extent, that you are one with them? You come close to them. Ultimately, you feel one with them. Isn't that what loving someone deeply is, being one with them? In other words, the feeling of love is not a relationship. Love is the collapse of relationship. It can be expressed in relationship, but love itself is not a relationship. That's why Rumi said true lovers, true friends, never really meet. They are in each other all along. They share their being all along. And so, in the experience of love, the separate self ceases. The separate self then comes back and claims the experience and says, "I love you." But actually, in the experience of love, the I and the you cease to exist, and there is just our shared being. That's what love is, the recognition of our shared being. We ceased being two separate entities. In fact, all the ego ever ceases is its own cessation. Because the ego is a cramp, a tension of separation. It's the source of unhappiness on the inside and conflict on the outside. The ego only ever wants to bring itself to an end. That's all the separate self longs for, is to be divested of its sense of separation and to be revealed as the unlimited being that it truly is.
So just, so I get this. So just to go back to my question, so maybe the reason why, when it feels like I'm in awareness, that it doesn't feel any of those things, maybe because actually thought's still running somewhere.
Allow yourself to feel that awareness is just the neutral background of all experience. That's to begin with, awareness, we first recognize awareness as the neutral background, the neutral observer, the neutral witness of experience. And I grant you, it feels neutral, even a little cold, aloof, unconcerned, impartial. But bear with it. To begin with, we feel it as a neutral background. In time, its nature of peace begins to make itself known. In time again, its nature of quiet joy or happiness is felt. And then in time it reveals itself as love. But allow yourself just to feel it as the neutral background, the neutral witness of all experience to begin with.
Okay. Thank you.